Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for watching. Tonight, a referendum on the government's use of private health clinics. A health coalition is taking a stance against Ford. And speaking of Ford, his fight to keep mandate letters private is now with the Supreme Court. And a young girl is giving back to the downtown mission, inspired by the Ramadan fast. The Ontario Health Coalition is holding a referendum on the government's use of private health clinics to deliver some health care. The coalition says it amounts to the privatization of our health care system. Dale Molnar has more.
The Health Coalition is fighting the Doug Ford government's use of private health clinics for procedures such as colonoscopies and cataract surgeries. They say the public health care system is being underfunded by $1.25 billion. Last month, Ontario's financial watchdog said the government is short billions of dollars when looking at the next 6 years of commitments to hospitals, long-term care, and home care. The coalition says this is happening while the government pours money into private health clinics. The Windsor Health Coalition is joining its provincial counterpart in launching a referendum next month.
So we believe that citizens deserve a say on that, and so we're going to hold a referendum where we're going to have a vote. We're going to have over 1,000 voting stations on May 26th and 27th in person, but we're also going to have an online place where people can vote anytime starting May 2nd.
The question on the ballot will be, do you want our public hospital services to be privatized to for-profit hospitals and clinics? People can vote yes or no. The results will be released on May 30th and then taken to the legislature on May 31st. The results are non-binding on the government, but the Health Coalition is confident they will get about 200,000 votes against privatization.
They were elected with less than 40% of Ontarians going out to the polls. That is not a mandate for them to substantially change one of our fundamental core services in this province.
Well, our public health care is important, and I think that privatizing core public hospital services is kind of a dangerous route to go in the province.
Windsor Regional Hospital declined to comment today. The hospital has entered a partnership with a private health clinic performing cataract surgery. It opened last year. Hospital CEO David Mouche said earlier this year, quote, "If we didn't do this, our wait lists for cataracts would have been insurmountable. Our physical space at the OLAT campus was not the best. An opportunity came up for us to move this outside of the hospital. We got it done quickly, and it hasn't missed a beat." The Premier defended the policy when he visited Windsor earlier this year.
Our whole goal is to make sure no one ever pays with their credit card. They pay with their OHIP card.
Any Ontario resident 16 and over can vote in the referendum. Polling stations will be announced on May 2nd. People can vote online throughout the month of May at publichospitalvote.ca. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
We can no longer ignore the plight of the poor, and we must do everything within our power to support those in need.
That's 13-year-old Aya Tarhouni. Her Ramadan fast inspired her to give back to the downtown mission. She was able to collect $5,000 to donate and work with local restaurants to help get warm meals to the shelter.
Ramadan, lots of people in the Muslim community are looking for different ways to donate and give back. And I spoke to a lot of people in the community about my cause, and they loved my idea, and they wanted to help in any way that they could.
A young woman like Aya is just unbelievable. The attitude she has, what she wants to do, she really put her heart and soul into what she's doing.
That donation comes during a tough time for people in our city. But there's news today that the inflation rate is slowing. The consumer price index rose by 4.3% in March, down from a 5.2% increase in February. As CBC's Peter Armstrong reports, the cost of mortgages, gasoline, and groceries were key factors.
As the cost of food surged this year, prices here remained pretty steady.
We sell cinnamon in bulk. It's $1.95 for 100 grams.
This food co-op in Halifax compared their prices to the grocery chains.
Organic cinnamon at Superstore was $14.26 per 100 grams. So you're looking at more than 7 times the price for an identical product.
How? Why? The answer is pretty simple.
We don't make any profit. We charge a small markup over wholesale prices.
Today's CPI numbers show price growth for everything is slowing. Much of that is driven by the falling cost of gasoline. By the summer, the Bank of Canada now expects year-over-year inflation to fall to 3% and get all the way back to 2% by next year. But don't mistake that progress in the fight to rein in inflation for prices actually falling. Food costs went up 10.6% in February. They only grew by 9.7% in March. Even if that rate fell to the 2% target, that still means prices are climbing, just at a more manageable level. And weathering those higher prices will get more difficult as economists expect the economy to slow in the coming months. Higher interest rates are squeezing households renewing their mortgages.
A lot of uncertainties currently because we are sort of at this turning point, this peak of the current economic cycle, so to speak, where, a lot more weakness can be expected moving forward.
We're headed into a tricky time. For months now, jobs and GDP have been surprisingly resilient, but that resiliency is about to be tested as prices continue to rise and interest rates continue to bite, all while the economy is expected to slow to a crawl. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
Galen Weston is stepping down as president of the grocery chain Loblaw starting next year. He'll be replaced by a Danish retail executive in early 2024. The announcement comes after plenty of unfavorable attention for grocery chains, including rising food prices and a big pay increase approved for Weston. Loblaw says the leadership transition was planned in advance as part of a senior executive shuffle. Weston has been president of the company since 2021, and he'll remain the chair of the Loblaw board, as well as CEO of its parent company, George Weston Limited. For nearly 5 years, Premier Ford's government has been fighting to keep his mandate letters to cabinet ministers secret. That fight has now gone all the way to the highest court in the land. Our senior reporter at Queen's Park, Mike Crawley, has the story.
Thank you, ministers. Please be seated.
After his first cabinet was sworn in following the 2018 election, Premier Doug Ford gave his ministers mandate letters, marching orders setting out his government's priorities. But Ford didn't make those mandate letters public, so a CBC journalist asked for copies under Ontario's Freedom of Information laws. The government refused.
This is an issue that matters a lot, I think, but it's not sexy to talk about access to information.
The government said the mandate letters were exempt from disclosure because they would reveal the substance of cabinet deliberations. 3 straight legal decisions rejected that argument. The final ruling is now in the hands of the Supreme Court.
The letters were placed on a cabinet agenda and distributed at a cabinet meeting.
The language that is used is not intended, for example, to offer a broad blanket exemption to all cabinet-related documents.
It just seems to be almost universal. The governments actually like secrecy. You have fewer problems if the public doesn't know what you're doing.
As the lawyers argued about the mandate letters in Ottawa, the Premier took a question in Toronto.
What was in the mandate letters is what we said during the election. I was so transparent. I told everyone what we were going to do, and we're doing it. That's our mandate.
The fact that they're working so hard to try to prevent Ontarians from seeing these letters, to me, it points to something not smelling right. There's something that they want to hide.
It's unclear how long the Supreme Court will take to decide whether Ford's mandate letters must be made public. In major cases like this, it typically takes around 6 months, and that decision could have an impact on access to information, not just in this province, but across Canada. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Opposition leader Marit Stiles is introducing a private members bill that she says would strengthen the Members' Integrity Act. It proposes changes that would stop government members from accepting gifts that could be seen as a conflict of interest. It comes after developers attended a stag and doe party for the Premier's daughter last year.
Ford's Conservatives want us to believe that it was a mere coincidence that the Premier's table mates at his daughter's wedding just so happened to be some of the same people who stood to benefit most from this abrupt change in government policy. Ontarians deserve integrity, transparency, and they deserve accountability.
Ontario's Integrity Commissioner originally investigated the matter but cleared Ford of any wrongdoing, saying he did not accept any financial contributions from developers. The commissioner is separately investigating Ford's housing minister for allegedly tipping off developers about previously protected Greenbelt land. The commissioner's office today says a new bill would not impact that investigation. Stiles's bill is not expected to pass in the legislature without support of the PCs. And big changes could be coming to Colchester Beach. An inflatable water park might soon find its way onto the water. So here's where it would go on Lake Erie. People would register at a tent on the beach, and then they'd head out to the park. That's the blue square that you see on your screen there. That park would have inflatable slides, ladders, and other things to play with. Officials say it wouldn't impact swimmers. The pitch for this passed a council meeting last night, but only by a slim margin. Critics say the cost of $25 an hour might be too much for families, and there's also concerns about parking. The issue will go back to Essex Council next month. It does make you think about summer, though, as we take a live look outside there at the gray and the clouds, and just a real chilly day today. But we do have sun on the way tomorrow. Colette Kennedy will be here right after the break with more. Stay with us. Canada's farming industry has taken a number of blows recently, from rising costs to extreme weather conditions, but it may be facing a long-term problem, a labor shortage, as fewer people choose to enter the business. As Saurabh Sandhu reports from BC, it's an issue the industry is preparing for now.
Bill Zaltzman has been farming for over 4 decades. His father was also a farmer, but his 2 children are not going to follow in his footsteps.
I was in a runaway truck going down the highway thinking everything was going great, to find out that somehow this dream has to take a different turn.
He had to find other options, and that was scaling back his operations.
So we made a plan to start to downsize, start to diversify away from what we were doing, and sold one small farm.
It's something that industry observers have also noticed. According to a recent report by Royal Bank of Canada, 66% of farmers do not have a succession plan. It also says by 2033, a shortfall of 24,000 general farm, nursery, and greenhouse workers is expected to emerge.
The key question we attempt to answer in this with our partners is, how are you going to stem this labor and skills shortage that we're going to be facing? And how can we proceed forward not only to stem those skills and that labor shortage, but also how to be even stronger in the future?
The report also says by 2033, 40% of Canadian farm operators will retire. Experts believe this could lead to a severe problem as young Canadians are not taking up farming. And there are several reasons for their lack of interest.
One, of course, is land affordability. It's just so expensive just to acquire the land.
It's expensive, guaranteed. Agriculture is not a cheap program to get involved with.
Many believe climate extremities are also a growing cause of concern for the farming community.
We're experiencing a lot of extreme weather events, climate events that have jeopardized the viability of some farms. Either you're experiencing drought conditions in some parts of the island, or sometimes, as we saw in November 2021, severe floods in the Lower Mainland.
One solution is to invest in education for next generation of farmers and in automation.
The cost of production being so high, folks don't have a lot of capital to invest in that kind of infrastructure themselves. They're really looking to government for leadership and support to finance that kind of infrastructure.
But to address the short-term lack of skilled labor, the industry will need to look outside the country. The report pushing for 30,000 immigrants to be accepted over the next decade that will set up their own farms or take over existing ones. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Delta.
Colette Kennedy is with us now for a look at weather. And Colette, another very gray, chilly day, but I think you might have some good news for us for tomorrow.
Yeah, we are going to see this ship kind of turning around. Let's get going in the right direction again, shall we? Because some of the temperatures we're seeing in the afternoon compared to some of the weather from last week, 20-degree temperature differences that we're having. Kitchener, just check it out. They are at freezing right now. So almost 10 degrees warmer. Windsor at 9, Chatham-Kent 6, Sarnia with 5 degrees here. So also kind of the cool feel because of the winds. The sustained winds have been from the west to even northwest. And that's just what's happening with the sustained winds. Of course, we've had some stronger gusts. They backed off here for the moment anyway at Chatham-Kent, but still nearly 40 kilometers an hour and over 30 Windsor to Sarnia. These will continue to back off through the midnight hours, and then we'll have a little bit of a break from those stronger winds. So that's going to feel a little bit better. Also with this system, it's an upper level low that's moving very, very slowly. That's bringing in that colder air and causing some of the flurries. And yes, I even saw a little light snow reported in Windsor, but that was, in the wee morning hours. You had to be up at 4 or 5 a.m. And then otherwise it's been a few wet flurries and some of it really to the east. But where there's more activity, there has been in northwestern Ontario, but why don't we slide a little further west from there? Because I'll tell you, winter still has a hold in the prairies. We are looking at a Colorado low that's moved into the southern prairies. Winter storm warnings, snowfall warnings, they're looking at 10 to 25 centimeters in parts of Saskatchewan and into Manitoba. This is going to linger all the way from tonight into Friday. So we can feel a little bit better that, okay, so it's only 9 degrees, big deal. And like Katarina said, we're going in the right direction in terms of, I do have some good news with the warm up coming. Also some clearing skies, so we'll get into at least some sunshine. The warm front is going to be sneaking in here of this next system, but that's more so into tomorrow evening. So during the day, I'd expect that we'll be dry, and then towards a late afternoon or early evening, we'll have a few showers that can pass through our skies. We get into the warmer sector, and that's going to push our temperatures up as well. Then we still have to deal with the rest of that system that's going to come through, and it's going to be a little bit of an up and down that you'll be seeing. We'll see a clearing trend overnight tonight. You notice some of the cooler temperatures here slipping below freezing, some lower dew points, allowing those temperatures to really drop for tonight. So it'll be a cooler start for tomorrow morning. But then we're going to take it to 15 degrees as we get into that warmer sector. I expect us to get into the 20s. Maybe it doesn't last that long, but it's not really that bad after that with some wet weather.
There you go. Thanks for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
When we come back, an update on that strike possible tomorrow among thousands of federal public servants. Stay with us. The Public Service Alliance of Canada says its members are prepared to hit the picket lines if they don't have an agreement by 9 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. The union represents more than 155,000 federal public servants, including Canada Revenue Agency employees. CBC's Kate McKenna has the latest.
The clock is ticking, still no deal.
I know that we're working very hard on the current negotiations. We have a competitive and fair wage on the table, and also that is reasonable to Canadians. Therefore, we're going to continue to work hard until we get to a deal.
But Canada's largest federal public service union gave Ottawa an ultimatum. If there's no plan by 9 p.m. Eastern Time, they strike. They've already set up toilets and offices in downtown Ottawa.
If there is a public service strike, there would be a serious impact on any departments that have staff who've been impacted. We know that processing delays are the kind of thing that could take place.
If workers strike, Canadians can expect longer waits, processing paperwork like taxes and employment insurance, also at airports and crossing land borders.
Strikes are very uncomfortable. Withdrawing your labor and not getting a paycheck is uncomfortable. Walking through picket lines is uncomfortable. The whole purpose is the union trying to make the employer uncomfortable.
The main sticking point is wages. The union wants a 13.5% increase over 3 years. So far, the government is only offering 9%. PSAC also wants rules about working from home enshrined in the collective agreement.
When the federal government represses its wages for its own employees, what they're doing is repressing wages for workers right across the country.
The union says it wants to use its size to pressure the government into making a precedent-setting deal. If it does go on strike later tonight, it'll be its largest strike since 1991. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
The trial in a huge defamation suit against Fox News has ended unexpectedly with an out-of-court settlement. Dominion Voting Systems sued Fox for repeating false claims that the company's ballot counting machines were used to rig the 2020 U.S. presidential election in favor of Joe Biden over Donald Trump. The company had been looking for $1.6 billion in damages, and today it said the settlement amounts to almost $790 million.
The evidence brought to light through this case underscores the consequences of spreading lies. Truthful reporting in the media is essential to our democracy. Dominion, our employees, our people, our partners are grateful to the court for allowing us the process for the truth to come out.
The proceedings got underway this morning with jury selection. Opening statements were to begin this afternoon, but the lawyers did not return from the break. The settlement was announced late today. Several Fox hosts and the broadcaster's chairman, Rupert Murdoch, had been expected to testify. Dominion launched its suit in 2021, contending that its business was ruined by the false vote rigging claims. The judge had already rejected Fox's argument that coverage of the vote rigging claims was inherently newsworthy and was protected by the U.S. Constitution's First Amendment guarantee of press freedom. A bear on BC's Sunshine Coast showed a big sweet tooth recently. It broke into a woman's car and drank dozens of cans of pop as she watched from a safe distance. And the bear's antics were all caught on her home security camera.
It was about 3 in the morning and my dog actually alerted me to something was out there. So I took a look outside and I saw the bear, and then later on looked at my security cameras and saw him enter the yard and smash the window really quickly. I'd left the door open if he'd have tried it. He could have gone in that way. I could see him coming in and out of the truck with different pop. He started with the Orange Crush, and eventually the last thing he got was the Diet Pop. So out of the 72 pop, he drank 69 of them. And you could hear him slurping it the whole time. And he didn't break them open with his claws as you would think he would. He used his teeth every time. And I tried reasoning with him. I explained to him how important the car was and that I had to go to work the next morning. That didn't seem to affect him whatsoever.
Now, by the end of the bear's drinking spree, it had guzzled 69 cans of sugary soda, but left the Diet Pop behind. I like his style. Okay, let's end with the signs of spring. We've got trees flowering here in Windsor, but we want to show you something impressive happening in Los Angeles, a super bloom of golden poppies and wildflowers. An unusually wet winter set the stage for this stunning show in California's Antelope Valley. Carpets of breathtaking flowers, so big and vibrant, they can even be seen from space. The area is a protected reserve, showcasing about 700 hectares of the eye-popping state flower. Open to the public year-round, but it's only filled with poppies for a small slice of the year. And that is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor, and you can find us on social media as well. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.